Hi everybody! Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to do a interactive review show. There are some television shows that we've been talking about, that you guys have been talking about, and you might not be aware of this, but it takes a substantial amount of time to make a video. So these TV shows are a little bit too small to get their own videos, but I think they're worth talking about, especially because, I think the news cycle is picking up a little bit, but we're not still quite there. So I thought it would be fun to do and it'll be an interactive review show, which means I will give my thoughts, and then we'll take a little break, and you guys can give your thoughts in the comments and ask me also questions. In an interactive review show, you can ask me anything that you'd like right away and get a response. Youngie74 asked if there will be spoilers. There will only be spoilers for Westworld. Maybe we'll do spoilers at the end of Hollywood as well. And I'll make sure I mark, when you can come back in. But for the first one, for upload, and for most of the Hollywood discussion, there won't be any spoilers. Hey George, we'll save spoilers for the viewer question portion of Hollywood. But please refrain from posting any spoilers before I mark that. CJ, don't worry, we won't have spoilers until the viewer discussion. So if you want to avoid spoilers, I'll let you know when to jump. Okay? All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. It's Monday. There should be a lot of cool stuff showing up tomorrow. Tomorrow should actually be a pretty good news day. Today was pretty good with Star Wars. I thought we'd maybe get a Mandalorian Season 2 trailer, but I think it's too early. That's not coming out until October, although you'd think under the circumstances they'd maybe try and move it up, but maybe it's impossible to move up. But even if they moved it up, it's still a little bit early for a trailer. All right, everybody, happy Star Wars Day. Let's jump right to it because we have a lot to go over. So usually I ask where everybody's watching from, but I think today, because of the nature of this stream, we'll go right to the reviews. All right, so this first review is Upload, and just to remind you, there are no spoilers for this first review. Hey, Francis. So Upload, a lot of people don't know where Upload is. I've been tweeting about it. I didn't even think to watch it until Saturday. I'll tell you what happened. I was going to watch some screeners that I had, but my screener app on my Apple TV froze. So I was like, oh man, and it took forever. It wasn't coming back out of being frozen. In fact, I had to unload it and reload it back to my Apple television because it never unfroze. But I thought at that point, maybe if I gave it some time. So I was like, I'll watch this Upload show on Amazon Prime that came out today. I think one of you actually might have tweeted me about it. And I was like, oh, they're short. I'll watch the first 20, it's like 25 minutes. I'll watch that because I had my lunch already. I was like, I don't want to just sit here. Loved the show, binged it. It's 10 half-hour or half-hour-ish episodes. I watched it in a day. I really liked it. I watched two other shows like that, were Glow and Harley Quinn. Both short episodes around. Harley Quinn was 13 episodes, its first season. But I just really had a great time. It was fantastic. So if you have if you have Amazon Prime, and if you have, by the way, that's just free 2-day delivery. It's weird. It's like the only streaming service where you get like other things for being a member instead of just content. And by the way, I can understand. Chris says it didn't look good to him. It's much better than it actually is. So what is the show about? All right, that's what Sean just asked. So for those of you who don't know, Computer Man watched it in 6 hours. Yeah. So Upload is about. It's in the near future, like 2023 or something, where instead of dying, and this is what's interesting about it, if you actually die, it's too late. But if you manage to upload yourself right before you die, you live it's like you become a sim. You live on in a digital world, and you can still interact with the living. You just become like a computer program, which was fascinating. And they have a lot of stuff in there that asks, 2033, says NN, so 2033. And so 2023 is not that far away. But anyway, it is a little Black Mirror-like, Sean. And also there's a lot of stuff in there about economics, because obviously it's quite expensive. So I don't want to give anything else away. Now this is from Greg Daniels, who did The Office and I believe Parks and Rec. But he also has Space Force coming out, and that has a trailer dropping tomorrow, which I'll be reacting to. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm now more excited for Space Force, having just watched this show. I thought that the world building here was phenomenal. The cleverness of not only how a digital world would work, but what the future would look like for people who are still alive, I thought was really well done. I mean, there's like, even just that alone is worth watching, because throughout the show, each episode, there's really cool things in there. It's a dramedy. It has some really good dramatic stuff in there. It's also a murder mystery, by the way, which I thought was very smart to do. It's great. So it's a little bit like Heaven Can Wait, with Warren Beatty too, a little bit. But it also has a strong comedic vibe to it. And also it was a little scary, because after I watched it, I was like, oh no, there is actually no upload. So like right now, if you die, you die. But I just thought that was really great. The idea that you had to decide before you actually died, I think you would want to constantly be backing yourself up like they do with the X-Men now. So you'd be like, just go to my last backup model, right? That to me was that was a design flaw in the program, but I thought it made it very interesting. Robbie Amell is the star. He's very good. He liked my tweet. He's been liking if you watch Upload, tweet about it, because Robbie Amell's going around liking the tweets. So that's nice. He's the star. He's very good in it. But the whole cast is good. And what's interesting to me is that it's largely a cast of unknowns. Let's see here. So it's got Robbie Amell as the lead, but Andy Alo, who's a singer turned actress, she's relatively new to acting. Hey, James. She was so good on the show. I really like her a lot. I thought Allegra Edwards as Robbie Amell's like really rich girlfriend who pays for his upload was really a surprise. And then Andy Alo's co-worker it's basically, there's a guy in Upload, and the female character, the female lead, is a customer service rep who's alive at the Upload company. It's really neat. And her co-worker is comedian Zenabe Johnson, who I also loved. I thought she was fantastic. And Kevin Bigley, who also tweeted me, said he's glad I enjoyed the show. He plays another resident at Upload, and he was also really, really funny. The whole show is just really good. It ends on a cliffhanger, just so you know, a very frustrating cliffhanger. You do get some answers, but I was surprised at the level of cliffhanger it ended on. I hope it gets renewed. It hasn't been renewed just yet, but then with this coronavirus situation, I think we're going to have to wait a really, really long time, hey Isaac, to get the second season, which is frustrating. Although we have to wait for 2 years for Westworld Season 4, so it's ridiculous. All right, so you can ask me, this is going to be the first interactive part of the review. You can ask me anything that you'd like about Upload, but no spoilers, because we're not in a spoiler section yet. So please don't ask me a spoiler question, but you can ask me something else. Michael said, Grace, would you choose to upload? Well, there's complications with Robbie Amell's character, but if that was available to do, I would totally upload my whole family. It's great. Who wouldn't love that? Niv says, the only problem that I had is the payment for the upload, because if you've been uploaded centuries ago, who pays for you? That's a good question. I think it's early enough in the development of the upload situation in the world of the show that it hasn't become an issue yet. For instance, so I like the fact that if you were a senior citizen, some people uploaded themselves what they wanted to look like they did when they were younger, so they were modeled on black and white photos of themselves, so you have some black and white people walking around the complex as well, which I thought was really cool. Elizabeth says, do you think any of the cast will get bigger projects because of this? Well, not too many people are talking about it just yet, which is unfortunate. I hope that they do. I think Andy Alo is a star in the making, and I think they are all very good, but we're looking for more actors of color, and Andy Alo, the two female actresses, Andy Alo and Zenabe Johnson, are really talented. I think I would be looking to cast them. They were the ones who got me the most excited. I would be looking to cast them if I could in my own projects. Mika, it's not like defending your life because you're still interacting with the real world. There's like a computer screen between you. Oh, Dancing Dog 60 says, is it a risque show like The Boys, or is it PG? It's not PG. It's definitely PG-13 because it talks a lot about sex, but it's not anything more than you would see in a romantic comedy. A lot of you are mentioning The Boys. The Boys is fantastic. So this gives Amazon Prime 2 shows that I think are just as good as anything you would see on Netflix. Daniel, I agree, the location was amazing. I am wondering where they filmed that. Everybody was good. Even the guy who played like all the employees. All the employees look the same because it's a computer program. He was great. Daniel, yeah, they're like, but no, they are not it's like a virtual reality. They can't go into the real world. They have to stay in their digital world. Mika says, good as Mrs. Maisel. Yes, but Mrs. Maisel I think is more niche. I think everybody would like Upload. I think Upload has huge mass appeal. It's a really, really good show. Oh, Sean, you should definitely get Amazon so you can watch Mrs. Maisel and this, and The Boys. I mean, right there, 3 shows, that's worth the service. And you get free 2-day delivery. You should definitely sign up for Amazon Prime. I never watched The Good Place, Thomas, so I can't claim allegiance to that show. Let's see here. Oh, that's right, to Movie Lover. Fleabag is on Amazon, too. That's a great show. Okay, so those are 4 amazing shows. Amazon needs to do a better job promoting what's on their service. Oh, and Good Omens. You're right, Danielle. Oh, my God. I wouldn't put Jack Ryan in there, Becky. I felt Jack Ryan fell apart in season 2. But I love Good Omens, too. Oh, my God. The Amazon Prime service pays for itself, especially right now. Because the Lincoln, the VFX, I thought the VFX were not only good, well done, but I thought very clever. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite things in the beginning. They say, like, sometimes the system has a glitch because there's so many people who are in it, so occasionally it'll affect the frame rate, and so it'll get glitchy. So you'll see a person, like, kind of, like, flicker. It's, like, really interesting. Sean says, 5 Amazon Prime, can I still watch other non-Amazon original movies? I think you might have to pay for that stuff, but you get all the Amazon Prime stuff. It's just phenomenal. I can't recommend this show highly enough. Like, 10 plus. And that's right, Juan, they do have Lord of the Rings coming. I never watched Man in the High Castle, Luis. I tried it, but I was like, it's too revisionist for me. You know, Renton, I want to watch Honey Boy. I really want to watch Honey Boy, but I don't know, it's hard for me to go back and watch something that's not being talked about anymore. All right, so, phenomenal show. I could not recommend it highly enough. Yeah, the phones were cool, Danielle. Basically, if you use a phone, you just put your hand out like this, and your phone and your TV screen just come up here. So instead of having to answering the phone, you just go like this, and that's how you talk on the phone. It was really neat. I really like this show. All right, John also watched Upload on Saturday. That was my Saturday. I just watched Upload. All right, so let's go to the next thing. Let me move the marker. All right, so we're still in a non-spoiler zone. Don't worry. So let's go over to Hollywood. Hollywood is a tough show for me to review. I had a lot of problems with it, but I really respect that so many people enjoyed the show so much, and it meant so much to them. I would say it's a very similar situation to Birds of Prey, where I think the representation means so much to some people that they're willing to, to Movie Lover, that they're willing to overlook, I thought, substantial problems with the show itself. Which, by the way, I think is understandable, because that kind of representation is really, really important. But I think the show is so flawed, and I think in a way that's a little bit dangerous, that I get worried about people maybe taking the wrong things away from Hollywood. So the first thing I would say about Hollywood on Netflix is that it's very graphic, as I told you before, particularly through episode 3. It's basically like Pretty Women, where it tries to glorify sex work. And for some people, you know, sex workers have a very nice life, apparently largely in Amsterdam. But most of the time, it's not a good thing to do. And that was one of my biggest problems with Hollywood, in that I felt that it was really uncomfortable to watch people have to engage in sex acts who were doing so against their will. They didn't want to do it. And then not only should that not happen, but for that to be passed off as entertainment was, I thought, troublesome. Particularly with the Jack Costello character. With the Archie, the screenwriter, since he was more into it in his own personal lifestyle, that was less, cringeworthy. But to see Jack Costello literally running away from stuff, and then also I thought the Jack Costello character, for a show that was supposed to be really forward-thinking, I thought he came off as homophobic at the beginning of the show, and then there was a weird thing that when it would make him famous, at the end of the show, no spoilers, but at the end of the show, he suddenly was okay with it. I felt there was a mercenary angle to this, which was, I think, not good. And I felt like the show almost seemed like it was grooming people for when they went to Hollywood to understand that sexual assault was an okay trade-off if you got to be famous in the exchange. That was very difficult for me, and I thought a very bad takeaway. It didn't help the fact that Jim Parsons was really good in the show. Like, Elizabeth just said I had a lot of issues with his character. I think that was the problem. His character, Jim Parsons, really good performance. Very likable performance because it's Jim Parsons. But he was basically playing Bryan Singer. And while he did kind of apologize at the end of the show, I felt like again, you had a situation where it was rectified by him making someone famous and them saying, okay, well, as long as you made me famous. And you're like, you should be in jail. I felt very bad because a month or so ago, somebody wrote me and said, we stopped watching everything coming out of Hollywood because we realized that it was just a bunch of inappropriate pedophiles and sexual abusers. And so we're so glad that we stopped, doing anything with Hollywood. And I felt very bad about that. And then when I see a show like this, I feel like that will only reinforce that incorrect belief about what Hollywood is like. Now, these abuses did happen. There is enough real stuff in Hollywood that it is drawn from actual history. But I think that it's too myopic and too limited in its scope, and it's too sloppy. I wish that they had actually made a movie or a series about just one thing here, and then that would have been more interesting. For instance, I was talking about it to a friend of mine who happens to be gay, and I told him some of my issues with it, and he made a really good point about saying that during the golden age of Hollywood, a lot of LGBT people who were quite prevalent in the industry were repressed. They couldn't be themselves, so they couldn't be true to who they were. They had to live a lie. They had to perpetuate a lie through their own work. So they were contributing to the system that was destroying them personally. And they had no hope of a healthy relationship because you couldn't be open. And if you were risking everything, not only from your career, but also maybe even your life. You could be killed. That is a hate crime. And what that would do to you and twist you inside, that would maybe make some of this manifest itself in some of the horribleness that was there. And that, to me, was really good. I thought that was a fascinating, sympathetic story. And that was kind of explored with the studio head, played by, let's see here, where is he? Joe Mantello as Dick Samuels, the head of the studio. He had a really touching storyline. And that, to me, I thought his was the most interesting and the most realistic. And I would have liked a series that maybe did that better. Also, as Chris pointed out, Rock Hudson actually was gay. He was closeted, he was gay. His agent was as abusive as Jim Parsons playing a real person. But Rock Hudson was a really amazing actor, and even if he messed up his first screen take, I doubt that he was as dumb as a rock as Jake, let's see, what's the actor's name here? Jake Picking's version of the character. I thought that was offensive to what Rock Hudson actually was like. I'm a huge Rock Hudson fan. He was amazing. What he was able to accomplish was impressive. And then the final thing that I want to say about the show before I turn it over to you guys to discuss is that, I just want to make sure I get this right on my notes here. I feel that there was a naivete about the show where it said if only people had stood up and said, you have to cast us, or I'm going to put this person in my movie, or I won't back down. And I thought that was really offensive to the people who actually were making progress during that time period. What about Lena Horne or Dorothy Dandridge? To in any way insinuate that they didn't work hard enough or want anything hard enough, I thought was really, really bad. Or Rock Hudson. Say, oh, if only Rock Hudson had come out, then who knows what Hollywood would have been like. That's so disrespectful to what Rock Hudson did accomplish and what he sacrificed to get that. That fantasy element to me was naive, totally untrue. It would not have worked out that way. And I thought it was disrespectful to the people who actually did make accomplishments during that time. I think it's great to shine a spotlight on the people who contributed to Hollywood. And like, for instance, the fact that the guy who directed My Fair Lady was gay is really important. But if you watch this show, Hollywood Netflix, you have no idea that George Cukor directed My Fair Lady because they didn't do anything to show it. Cary Grant was gay. Cary Grant Cary Grant had a roommate who he did photo shoots with, and everybody was like, "Oh, isn't it wonderful that Cary Grant, Randolph Scott, that Cary Grant and Randolph Scott are such good friends," and it's like, that's really important what was accomplished. So it's frustrating to me. All right, but I do think, by the way, the best episode was the final episode on the show. I'm not going to give anything away, but showing what representation means to moviegoers, that was really beautiful. That brought tears to my eyes. Let me spotlight my favorite members of the cast, and then we'll go into the next one. Okay? I really disliked David Cornsweet as Jack Costello. Darren Criss. I'm sorry, I'm not a Darren Criss fan. I thought he was very creepy, too creepy, in fact, in the Versace murder show. And I thought Laura Harrier, and I'm sorry to say, I didn't like Samara Weaving here too. It felt too CW. By the way, the movie within the show I thought was horrible. The Meg movie, I was like, that looks really bad. But I did like some of the actors. I thought that even though Jake Picking was not playing Rock Hudson, I liked him a lot in the role of, whatever that abominable, it was not Rock Hudson, but that character I thought was very likable. I liked him. I really liked Jeremy Pope as Archie Coleman. I thought Jeremy Pope was like lit up the screen. He's as big a find as Billy Porter on Pose. He had a light coming through him, and I thought that Jeremy Pope and Jake Picking's romance throughout the show was really beautiful. I really liked that a lot. I thought they were great. I thought that Dylan McDermott as this guy who's the guy who ran the gas station, as the pimp, he actually ended up being really great. I thought he was excellent. Holland Taylor was doing Holland Taylor, but she's good at it. I thought that Joe Mantello as Dick Samuels was great. Patti LuPone, fine, By the way, I have a real problem with the show where a guy who sleeps with one woman then marries her daughter, and they're all okay with it. I'm like, that's just, to me, too far. But Patti LuPone did do a very nice job. Mira Sorvino had a nice moment. I actually thought Maude Apatow was pretty good as Jack Costello's wife. Michelle Krusiek as Anna Mae Wong. I would have liked a whole miniseries just on her. I thought she was excellent and she deserved it. And then, as I said, I thought that Jim Parsons, this is Hollywood, Damon. I thought that Jim Parsons as Henry Wilson really did a phenomenal job playing a despicable character. Really. And I had problems with that because he was so good and so likable. If it would be like switching Bryan Singer in for Henry Wilson and seeing how you would feel about that. Queen Latifah was okay, Chico, but again, I would have preferred a series about, Hattie McDaniel and Gone with the Wind and what she went through. I would have preferred that. Much preferred that. All right, so let me turn it over to you. You guys can ask me anything you'd like, and this is a spoiler section. Now we're jumping to spoilers, okay? So we're jumping to spoilers for Hollywood on Netflix, and then we're going to go to Westworld, which will be an entirely spoilery discussion. Andrew said, the show gave LGBT folks a fantasy happy ending. We know it never ends that way, but we can get that fantasy, and we can't get it anywhere else. But I don't think that's true, Andrew. I think that today, the LGBT situation is just phenomenal. Obviously, it could be better. It's not perfect. But I think that's another thing. I don't like taking Hollywood to task for not being representational when Hollywood has always led the way in terms of representation and opening up. Platinum Diva says, is the show worth watching? That's funny. That's very funny, Platinum Diva. If those issues matter to you about representation and stuff like that, like personally, I think it is worth watching. I think it has good production values, but I would urge you to Google everybody they actually talk about in show. But although some people say no, you'll know if it's for you in the first 1 or 2 episodes. Rodrigo says, the only big issue I had with Hollywood is when Samara Weaving threw the audition. I don't like how it implied that minorities had basically given the role by a white actor. That's an excellent point. I think that's a really good point. I also thought the audition scenes were very weak. I don't think either one of them seemed particularly good. And also, I didn't understand why Samara Weaving did such a 180 as a character. I mean, why start her out being mean? I just didn't like that. Juan, that's an excellent point that other countries have different situations, and I'm very sorry to hear that you have to go through that where you live. Chico says, Grace, how do you feel about Jack not winning an Oscar, but other actors of castmates of color did win? I think that speaks a lot to like what actually goes on a lot with the Oscars. You know, I think there was somebody better in his category. Also, I didn't care because I didn't like his character. I thought his character, I didn't think he, I mean, also, they only tested 2 people for each role. I mean, that's ridiculous. Let's see here. Chris says, I would have preferred a historically accurate show about Hollywood instead. I agree. I would have really preferred that. I would have preferred a show that actually highlighted these people's contributions. There might be a sequel. There might be. I mean, it's doing pretty well. It's number 3 on Netflix today in the U.S., so people are discovering it. That's right, Mika. Halle Berry, Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen has done so much for LGBT actors. Red says, can you drag the show a bit more? Well, I want to be respectful to people who liked it so much. I agree, Chris. Feud is much better, in my opinion. Catalan says, I understand the historical inaccuracies, but I loved the show. Europe is still wildly uneven when it comes to LGBT rights, so I enjoyed the fantasy. You know, so that's really interesting to me. You know, I think it's important to always take into account perspective and what Ryan Murphy is providing to people who maybe need it more in some areas of the world than other people do. I do wish that Ryan Murphy made his stuff a little bit more accessible to the people who aren't in the target audience. I think that would help him with shows like this. Hey, John. Kyle, I don't watch the American Horror Story seasons, and I've heard that this is actually very similar to that, pros and cons, so I find that interesting. Andrew said, historically accurate means LGBT tragedy. I needed a little fantasy and hope. I can understand that, Andrew, but at the same time, isn't there hope in the fact that all these people from the LGBT community were working in Hollywood and were so successful? I mean, isn't it great for you to learn that the guy who directed so many famous Hollywood movies, including My Fair Lady, was gay? I think that's really important and great to know. Chloe says, why don't you like Darren Criss? He just doesn't pop to me. And also I feel like he always is exactly the same. I feel like he's one of those actors, and I feel unfortunately the same way about Laura Harrier and the other lead, David Corenswet. That's such a bad name, Corenswet. I feel they all just feel like they're putting on a high school play. It doesn't seem like legit acting to me. LP says, I'm gay and I did not enjoy the show. Ryan Murphy is hit and miss. I think he's just, I think that, also I think he very much, I think he belittled like what other people go through in terms of harassment too, not just in all jobs, but I think that was not great either. Panda Pal says, I found it ironic that the Meg movie won over Gentleman's Agreement when Gentleman's Agreement was very ahead of its time and did a lot for anti-Semitism. Yeah, that's the problem when you put this fantasy stuff in there. You're like, yeah, we beat out Gentleman's Agreement, a real movie that was actually made at the time period starring Gregory Peck that really called out anti-Semitism and was really important. So it's like, what? I don't get that. They should have made up other movies. I think mixing in real movies is like not great. The Movie Lover says, every single person has told me that I couldn't make it because I am Arab. This is the only show that gave me hope. I needed the fantasy. You shouldn't feel that way. Look at Mina Massoud. He's Aladdin. And yeah, he's not getting any other work, but a lot of people can't get any other work. I don't think that's, I mean, look what Mindy Kaling accomplished this weekend. I think that, a false hope is not a good replacement. Good but I feel your pain. And I do agree with Francis that it was also all too convenient. I mean, they were successful immediately. Well, that was the other thing I thought was very funny. And also frustrating to me. David Cornsweet, when he showed up at the studio at the first episode and he wanted to be an extra, and the woman who's picking extras says, it's not enough to be a pretty face in town, you got to get some training, you got to learn to act. And instead of him going to acting class, he decided to become a male prostitute instead. I was like, what? Why did you go to acting class? And then to make things even worse, Jack Cornsweet in real life went to Juilliard. So it's hypocritical of the show, quite frankly, which really bothers me. All right, beware. I've heard some rumors that Ryan Murphy has a bit of a casting couch. Okay. All right, so that's the second story. Let's move on to, bye, Evan. Let's move on to Westworld. All right. The Westworld season finale was last night. Hold on. I got to move the marker so we know what we're talking about here. Boop. All right. So this is a spoiler discussion. All right? Not too spoilery till we get to the question section. But it's spoilery-ish a little bit in what I'm going to say about it. All right. Sean, there's nothing to explain about a Ryan Murphy casting couch. I'm just, he's a little handsy apparently. So if you ever work with him, be aware. Elliot, Juilliard is one of the most famous acting schools in the world. It's here in New York City. All right, Westworld. Westworld, again, this is a spoilery discussion. Yes, that's right, CJ, welcome back. No spoilers about Hollywood, because now we have people who've come back who wanted to avoid them. All right. So, last night, Westworld Season 3 came to an end, and it sure was pretty. As I like to say, it's an ad campaign to visit Singapore, but I thought that a lot of it didn't make any sense. I think that the biggest problem I had was that I sat and I watched every single frickin' episode, and I felt like at the end of the season, nothing really happened. Like, you could have jumped from the end of season 2 to 4, and I don't think you missed that much. That really frustrated me. That bothered me a lot. I also felt that tonally, that's right, it was the tamest riot ever. And I like that the rioters hacked the screens and changed the screens in town. They were like, yeah, let's put up some violent art. And you're like, who would do that? All right, it was so silly. Also, I felt that tonally, the show was all over the place. One episode, it was like Terminator. Another episode, it became like Blade Runner. Then it became like Kill Bill. Then last night, I felt it became like Ghost in the Shell. And so it's fine to have homages to these different futuristic shows about artificial life and, women assassins. But I think that this show never had its own identity. This season never had its own identity, which really frustrated me. So there wasn't anything that was Westworld. It was almost like, it was like Westworld itself took that genre drug. And each episode was like mimicking and aping another film, another better film that created its own comments, its own, what it wanted to say. I mean, so that was annoying to me. I also didn't like that Dolores was all over the place. So like the whole season, they're like, Dolores hates mankind. Oh, surprise, she really loves them. And you're like, what? Like this whole time, Dolores was like, I hate people, I hate them. And then at the end, she was like, oh no, I love them so much. I hate them because I love them. And I was like, are you kidding me? I did think that Cholores, Charlotte Hale with Dolores inside, although I don't see Dolores inside at all. Although I do like what that character's becoming. When she walked across the floor as a digital version while that shootout was going on in the abandoned mall, I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't like her look, though. Tessa Thompson has looked so cool throughout this entire season, and then her new look, I was like, oh, that hair looks not good. It was like, I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like her outfit. Got her burned. She had one burned arm that she kept, and I was like, I think that burned arm could look a little cooler. I didn't like it. And then also, they had, and also, what about Bernard? I was like, I love Jeffrey Wright. I care about Bernard, but I didn't, it was a waste to follow him around. And even Bernard was like, oh, I made a mistake. I thought Dolores wanted to kill people, but I was wrong. Oopsie. And you're like, well, then why did I listen to you? And then he didn't even have an epiphany moment. It was just so frustrating. I feel like the writers are just making it up as they go along. I've had that problem with Christopher Nolan sometimes, too. I'm like, and of course this is his brother and his sister-in-law. And so I'm like, if I really pressed you for what was going on in the show and what really was happening, and I actually asked you for full answers, I bet you wouldn't have them. And that really annoys me. I think that they just kind of like give the illusion that there's one and they let you fill in the blank, and then so you kind of feel, oh, now I'm intellectual. I hate that. It bothers me so much. But I did think there was some good acting. Let's go over each of the characters, and then you guys we'll make it an interactive discussion. So I liked Evan Rachel Wood. I liked that she was just walking around as her android skeleton. That was pretty cool. Although I was like, how does your skin go on like so perfectly? That doesn't make any sense to me. And also, why are there no creases in your face once it reassembled? But she had some great moments. She definitely was very much channeling Robin Wright. So like budget Robin Wright. Tandy Newton looked amazing every single episode. I was like, the cheekbones! I can see some of you are upset about Maeve. Maeve also all over the place. She's like, I'm going to kill you, Dolores. And then at the end she was like, no, Dolores, we're buddies now because we had this little heart-to-heart in your head. And she just believed her immediately. I was like, oh, so annoying. So I didn't like that. And also, she never did anything. All this promise about like, oh, Maeve cut loose. And she never did anything. Jeffrey Wright, again, also didn't do anything. Tessa Thompson had probably one of the best arcs of the season because she had the most to do. And she looked amazing doing it. So that was nice. I appreciated her fashion choices. I liked when she crawled around as a burnt body. That was neat. Aaron Paul, speaking of budget versions of other people, I felt that Aaron Paul was a budget Michael Bain. And it really bothered me. It bothered me. And I thought, also, by the way, this whole season was about strong female characters, which I thought was really wonderful. And I have to say, as a woman in particular, it bothered me that they were like, yes, we're all in control, but let's install this hapless guy as the leader, and he'll get all the credit. And I was like, why don't one of you take the credit? It was annoying to me. And he never seemed to catch on. Caleb never caught on. I also didn't like the reveal that he'd known Dolores a long time ago at the park when he was training as a military person, and he was like, I told people not to rape you. She's like, he's different, that one. I like him. Oh, yeah, they were like, you're a bad guy. No, you're not a bad guy. You've done horrible things, but you've done nice things. And I'm like, what is he? I thought they were going to say that made him human, but instead they were like, something about choosing. And I was like, oh, I can't take it. Luke Hemsworth was wasted. Also, what happened to him in the bathtub? Did he totally waste away? They just left him in a bathtub. Let's see who else. Vincent Cassell. I liked the idea that he was actually being controlled by the machine, but then it was over before it started. I was like, oh, that's a cool twist. Although, how did Maeve miss it? She's like, I talk to machines. But the whole time I've been talking to you, I had no idea that I was talking to another machine. So that was kind of stupid. Also, why was Pom Clemente on this show? She was on the show for like a minute. Lena Waithe. Loved Lena Waithe on the show. I thought she was really great. I wish she had more to do. You don't need to have watched the season, which was really frustrating to me. Oh yeah, Ed Harris. I'm so tired of listening to Ed Harris and the Man in Black. I've just had enough. It makes no sense. When he came, the two end. So let's talk about the two end credit scenes. As I tweeted last night, if it weren't for those two end credit scenes, I wouldn't care at all about season 4. So they had two end credit scenes. One, Dolores, Charlotte Hale is the new Dolores. She's been printing up a bunch of people in the basement of a Delos building in Dubai. So she's printing up a bunch of people. So I wonder who will come back. Is she printing up another Dolores? I don't know. But then she printed up another William, and so he took over for William and killed William. And I know that was supposed to apparently be an Easter egg from the end of last season, but who remembers that? And I just didn't care anymore. I thought his character was unlikable. I thought he just wouldn't stop monologuing, and I never understood anything that he was saying. So I didn't like that. Dolores uploading I liked it when she uploaded herself into the machine. That was kind of cool. But again, it was too slow, and it took too long, and then it didn't happen for long enough. So that was frustrating to me. But I am excited to see who else has been printed up, and I'm excited to see what Tessa Thompson does next season. I want to see more of that riot droid, which I thought was very effective in dispersing the riot. I was like, wow, Dallas did a good job with that. The other thing where Bernard woke up after having gone into the void, and I was like, I'm sure Tandy Newton will be like, was my daughter there? And I'm like, I never saw you really talk about your daughter, so I don't know why you care about her so much. And I don't think I've ever heard her daughter say more than 2 words. So we'll see. But I still thought it was cool that he was covered in dust and he woke up after having been in there and was like, oh, time to just not do anything again. So yeah, I'll watch it. It's hard for me to give up a show. Most of the people I know who have stopped watching Westworld, but it's hard for me to stop. Well, I mean, I'm invested. I want to see what happens. And every episode, not just every season, but every episode, there is a cool visual and there is something neat where I'm like, I'm glad I saw that. But it makes me pick up my phone, and I'm on my phone while I watch TV, and that's never very rewarding from an entertainment perspective because the show just isn't engaging enough. All right, so that's my thoughts on it. You may ask me anything you'd like about Westworld. This is a spoiler discussion, so you can ask me anything you like. Daniel says, do you think Dolores will be back? Yeah, I think anything's possible on the show because of the world they've created. Now, it won't be, they deleted her, but did she make a backup somewhere? That's the thing with computers. I don't know. I mean, she created so many Doloreses, remember? Everybody was Dolores. She was putting her sphere in a bunch of different droids. So she could be somewhere. Hey, Joseph. Sean says, what do you want to see in season 4? I'd like to see the story move forward. They had a line on Billions last night, which I also watched, where a character said, I have a ticket to ride the carousel. Because another character said, I think you mean an airplane. And she said, no, the carousel, because it's just going in circles. And I feel like that's what Westworld is. It's not going anywhere. Damon, they have confirmed season 4 because it's in the contract for Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. So they had to renew it no matter what, even though the viewership is down. Cameron said, I literally had no idea what Bernard or the Man in Black was doing the entire season. Agreed! And it's not like, oh, I didn't understand, but now I do. If you ask me now, I'm like, I don't know what they did. I guess they had to pay those actors and have them around. Like, I just don't know. We'll go till 5:25. I saw a question there. Red says, did you like the scene with Bernard visiting Arnold's wife? It felt purposeless to me. I totally agree. Also, if you watch the end credit thing, where they talk about the making of the show, they're like, we made up Gina Torres to look like she's 70. And I'm like, people who are 70 don't look that old. Like, what are you talking about? I thought that was insulting. Yeah, Luis, as I said, I thought that was cool with Sirach, but then they got rid of him, like, immediately. I was like, oh, I'd love to have that character carry on with that. Sufjan says, how would you rank the seasons? I think they're all the same, quite frankly, because even though I didn't enjoy this season from a story perspective, it was so cool visually. It's hard for me not to like it for some degree because of that. Joseph said, can somebody who lost interest in the show watch Westworld Season 3? Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense, so you don't worry about it. If you're like, I don't get this. Nobody gets it. Even people who watch the show for the whole time. So you might as well take a look at it. Portis 2 says, Maeve is still in search for her daughter. When will they give this woman something else to do? I agree. I love Maeve. It's Tandy Newton's best role, even though it's not that great a role. But also, she can talk to machines and control them. How is she not doing more cool stuff? George says, I felt the explosion scenes in this season were a little lackluster. I would agree. I would totally agree. And they played like slow music over them. It was a waste. And like I was like, look at that cool explosion that you just wasted. Red says, why didn't she just control Dolores? Dolores somehow could keep her out. It was never explained to us. Niv said, this is a great way to talk about TV, Grace. Maybe we'll get back to normal. We get to normal, you can make this part of the stream. I would like to. I'd like to do TV, and I'd like to do comic books. They're starting to bring comic books back, but like in a really slow schedule. Dancing Dog says, Grace, how come nobody has fun at Westworld? Isn't it an amusement park? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why it's like, what if I don't want to kill and murder anyone? They're like, well, then maybe you'd like to vacation elsewhere. And you're like, come on, my money's still just as good. Can I have a wholesome cookout and just talk to a cowboy? Thee says, do you want Anthony Hopkins to come back? No, I don't. I do not want any more monologuing. Geeky Gator, I didn't watch Clone Wars, so I can't review it. It's hard for me. The show's been on so long. I think, it's going to be hard for me to join a conversation that I mean, this was like, what, season 6 or something, right? That's a lot not to have seen. Francisco, we are talking about Westworld. You can ask me anything you want about Westworld. Or, at this point, something else. We have 5 minutes to go, so we're doing Westworld, but you can also ask me other stuff. Sufjan says, did you know that 5 of the 8 episodes were directed by women? I did see that. I thought some of them did an excellent job, but I thought some of them did a real crappy job, which made me feel bad, because I want people to feel that women can direct action. The Movie Lover says, Grace, did you watch the Mandalorian behind-the-scenes show? It's basically an ad for Johnny Fabs and Filoni to take over Kennedy's job. I haven't watched it yet. I was going to review it, but then I was like, no. It just seems to me like, if you're going to go behind the scenes of the show, actually show me how this show is made. I don't want to just see people sit down at a table and talk about it. CJ, I haven't watched Little Fires Everywhere. The Movie Lover pointed out that the new Star Wars Mandalorian documentary is a weekly release. Yeah, it's so stupid. Happy Star Wars Day to you too, Mandela Butterfly. Zachary says, should I watch Westworld or Billions? I don't know. Billions was like also more of the same last night. Sunday, I actually kind of liked Killing Eve. I haven't liked the first 2 episodes of Killing Eve, but I thought this last one was pretty good. But Sunday evening has been like a night of not good TV, unfortunately. I'm finding. Let's see here. Morris, those are very flattering options to play me. I appreciate it. I would like to go back in time and cast Gina Davis. I like Gina Davis. Portis2 says, Grace, when do you think New Mutants will be released? I expect to be making a video about it sometime this week. I think odds are tomorrow. Francisco, I don't think there will be a May 4th. I don't think there will be a Mandalorian 2 trailer today. It would have come out by today, unfortunately. Evan Rachel Wood, I don't know. She's so intense. But she does look a lot like Amber Heard's Mira. They're very similar. Damon, I have huge hopes for the Suicide Squad. I'm very, very excited for it. I don't think we'll get any new movie trailers until they actually open up theaters and people are going. I think when Tenet comes out, you'll start to have trailers there, if it comes out. But when it does, I think that's what will happen. Lincoln says, thoughts on the Oscars allowing streaming movies as nominees this year? Only while theaters are closed. So nobody's taking them up on it yet. So I don't think it was really that much of a game changer just yet. The Movie Lover says, but when will Tenet release a trailer? That's also, I like that. That's a good question. I think Tenet will release a trailer in June, when they know they're gonna, when they feel confident they're gonna open. Then they'll release a trailer. LP, I love Mrs. America. I think it's a fantastic show. It's also weekly for some stupid reason, but I'm watching it. Damon, they'll never cast Keanu Reeves as Moon Knight, unfortunately, because, well, I don't think, I feel bad for you, but because you like him, you like the idea, but Moon Knight is a Jewish character, and so you need a Jewish actor. Joe says, what happens when Tenet flops? They will rush it to streaming. That's what will happen. I predict within 2 to 4 weeks it'll go to streaming. Unless people somehow show up. I don't know. I mean, that's still like a month away, 2 months away. Oh, Sufjan, it's impossible to pick a favorite actress on Mrs. America. I guess it's between Rose Byrne and Cate Blanchett. Zeester, Hollywood, I felt was had some flaws, but the fact that it means so much to some people, I think, is really beautiful. Oh, it's 5:25. All right, I'll do 2 more questions. Oh, Lincoln, I'm so glad you enjoyed today's live stream. That makes me so happy. Youngie, I'm not sure why there's a price difference on New Mutants. Maybe they're counting in movie theaters only in the United States because other theaters aren't being mean in other countries. We'll find out. I think you'll find out this week. I'm almost sure about it. I did see the trailer for Lovecraft Country. I tweeted about it. I will cover that show. I'll review it. At least the first episode. I thought it looked excellent. I thought it looked very, very good. I'm a big Jonathan Majors fan, and I thought Journey Smollett-Bell did a very nice job in Birds of Prey as Black Canary, and I'm excited to see what she does next. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you live tomorrow, and of course, there'll be lots of videos going up tomorrow, too. Okay.